But the lawsuit could wait. We gotta save Big Idea first. We have multiple ways to do this after all. There's the Veggietales concert. Wait, never mind. That failed. Well, there's the merchandise.
That's terrifying.
Shoot. That money belonged to the distributors. Well, what about the movie? Yes, the movie! Our Hail Mary of the Veggietales arsenal. This will save the company.
Please don't tell me Jonah flopped.
Right? Folks, are you even surprised anymore? At this point, I think you know the answer. According to Phil, Jonah needed to make at least $18 million in order for Big Idea to walk away with a profit. With fingers crossed, Jonah was released in October of 2002 and made around $25 million at the box office. Now, half of that money went to the movie theaters.
Okay, that's good.
And the rest of it, well, it went to the company that marketed the film. So overall, Jonah was a financial failure, and it was not going to save the company. Couple this failure with the impending lawsuit and massive layoffs, and it should be no surprise, Phil wasn't in the best place mentally. He felt like he was losing his focus with his objective for Big Idea, and everything was coming undone, but he still had faith. Phil thought God was going to save Big Idea.
I hope so.
Yeah. Sure. It was now winter of 2002, and animators at the company were starting to leave. And instead, were going to Blue Sky Studios to work on robots. Not the machines, the movie. Yeah, remember that film?
I do.
It's got Robin Williams. But whatever, Big Idea had a bigger problem to deal with. The lawsuit. Ladies and gentlemen,
what was the lawsuit
I welcome you
for?
all to the endgame of our story. Now, Big Idea had already burned over $2 million on legal fees so far and begged the CEO of HIT to settle out of court. He said, no, this guy was out for blood, and it was time for a court battle. In this corner, weighing over 10,000 pounds, Barney the dinosaur. And in this corner, weighing... Hold on. Never mind. It's Bob the Tomato. Now, fight. The case would go from 2002 to 2003 and took place in Dallas, Texas. During this time, the president of Big Idea left the company, and by April of 2003, only 65 people worked at Big Idea. On the back end, the video sales for Jonah were going well. Too bad Phil did not see a penny of it, since that money would go to distributors. But you know what? Hey, shut up. It's time for law stuff. Phil hated the court proceedings and found them dreadfully boring. His lawyer even told him, hey, Phil, try to look more interested. Well, the argument for HIT Entertainment and their ownership of Lyric boiled down to this. There's actually three main points. One, even though there was not an officially signed agreement, there was a binding agreement based on the original offer letter between Big Idea and Lyric. That since the offer letter was signed by Dick, and the return correspondence from Big Idea carried a signature on a fax cover sheet, that those documents, taken together, constituted the binding relationship, even though Dick's letter clearly said, quote, there would be no binding relationship until a formal agreement was signed. 2. Lyric's lawyers made the argument that the wording on the potential contract said, quote, approval of which Big Idea will not unreasonably withhold, and said that Big Idea was walking away from Lyric and HIT because Phil was being greedy, that he was leaving only because he wanted more money, and that was it. And that was not a reasonable cause to walk away. They admitted that Big Idea had the right to approve of HIT's purchase of Lyric, but that they, quote, unreasonably withheld approval. And finally, HIT's lawyers made the argument that Big Idea had given HIT DVD rights to all of Big Idea's videos, even though the contract only said video cassettes only. Their evidence? Big Idea sent 2 videos on DVD for Lyric to use for test audiences only. The lawyers for HIT pointed to the DVDs and noted the logo of Lyric on said covers. See, they said, They gave us DVD rights.
None of
Marriage
this.
is binding, and that makes me king. See?
Phil
None
thought
of this
that all of
sounds
these arguments were completely
right at
stupid.
all.
To which they were. It was a total stretch of logic. But that's corporate law for you. But this brings us to the final death blow for Big Idea. They lost. The
They
judge
lost
and
the
jury
lawsuit?
agreed with the lawyers from Lyric and Hit and gave them
Really?
everything. $11 million in damages, payment for legal fees, and of course, Big Idea itself. 14
Wow.
years of Phil's life work was ripped from his arms
Wow.
in an instant. Despite losing in court, Phil was determined to keep Big Idea together as one entity. He pulled a 363 bankruptcy sale, which was a way to keep the company together and operate as one instead of being stripped for parts and sold separately. That was a smart move. So, in 2003, there was an auction for Big Idea between companies, and a bidding war ensued. The winner, a company called Classic Media, with a purchase of $19.6 million. Now Bob, Larry, the entire Veggietales cast no longer belonged to Phil. Sadly, the pain for Phil
That's a
did
big
not end
fear.
there. He
That
got
is a
angry
big
letters
fear
from
right there.
fans, and from ex-employees. And ultimately, he asked himself, why? Why would God bring a dream to life only to see it die? For the record, I am going to approach the following from Phil's perspective and beliefs, so keep that in mind. Over time, Phil realized that he made a false idol out of Big Idea, that he was too obsessed with becoming big and doing it quickly, that in the shuffle of it all, he lost focus on his ministry and God. Phil's original plan was to do what he was doing for God. But according to him, he lost sight of that and only cared about his own dreams. In his book, Phil says, quote, "Beware your dreams." And his personal dream was to become the next Christian Walt Disney, to provide a strong option for people who want to watch movies and shows from a company with strong ethics. He had tunnel vision, and in the process of reaching for the stars, he fell. He fell hard. And you want to hear the most soul-crushing part of it all? You're not ready for this. The irony. In August of 2005, the verdict for the Lyric lawsuit was overturned in federal appeals court. But by that time, it was too late. The damage had been done. Big Idea had already been sold off, and there was no way for Phil to get it back. Hey, what did I say? You know what? I told you all. This was going to be a sad story. Well, guess what? The story does not end there. But before we move on, let's do a quick recap of the main things that went wrong for Phil and brought the original run of Veggietales to its knees. Number 1, high cost. Big Idea spent a lot of money and hired way too many people. Folks, money is the name of the game, and Big Idea, for the majority of its run, always seems short on it. Number 2, poor management. Phil admits that he does not care for being the CEO or president of a company and would rather pass that off to other experienced people. Well, that backfired because these people did not have the same goals as Phil's in mind. Instead, they had unreasonable goals that would eventually sink the company. Number 3, the movie. This was a bad idea from the get-go. It was way too much, way too soon.
Very much so, very much so.
Especially with the
It's a
other
shame,
problems
'cause I
in the
do
mix.
really enjoy
It took
Jonah.
away manpower. It cost a ton of money. And here's the thing, the movie itself wasn't bad. If only Big Idea could have waited a few more years, then maybe the movie might have been a success. Number 4, distributors. I feel that out of all of the problems I've listed so far, this one was the most out of Phil's hands. He played by the rules and had an understanding with a guy who was cool with him. But then that guy died, and the new owners went for Phil's throat. In hindsight, maybe he should have signed a contract that he found suitable with Lyric, instead of letting things be. If he did, it definitely would have helped him in court. But ultimately, Phil blames himself. He said that his strengths built Big Idea, but his weaknesses brought it down. That he was too eager to go big. And that was his undoing. Well, you can't say he doesn't own up to it. Despite the lawsuit, bankruptcy, and auction, this was not the end for Veggietales. You see, Classic Media was now the new owner, and oh, wait, hold on.
Oh,
I'm wrong.
Okay.
They were bought by DreamWorks.
Universal.
Wait, no, hold on. They got bought by NBC Universal. Oh, wait, they were bought by Comcast. What just happened? So, technically, Comcast owns Veggietales. Huh. Well, Veggietales would eventually find itself on TV in a show called Veggietales on TV. It was repackaged episodes of the original Veggietales, and it ran from 2006 to 2009 on a channel called Kubo.
Okay.
It was even the top Saturday morning cartoon during its run.
I remember watching that.
But this was also the time when the new owners started to downplay God in the show. I actually got to ask Phil about this.
Celery Night Fever.
And he said, quote,
one of my favorites.
I was upset when an NBC deal resulted in the classic episodes being de-godded, because I had been told that wouldn't happen, and I was involved in that project. I stepped aside when it became clear the shows needed to be secularized. Heck, I mean, there were religious groups that were fuming that they were taking God
less
out
about
of
God and
Veggietales.
more about being just a good
One member
person.
said, quote,
and I feel like
the
those
series
are more
is successful because of its
available
biblical
to everyone.
worldview. Not in spite of it. That's the signature to Veggietales.
End quote. Honestly, you know what? That's a fair point. The show did start off as Christian after all, but then things got weird with the Netflix series. Both of them. Veggietales in the House in 2014, and then Veggietales in the City in 2017.
I didn't even know they
Phil
were
and
in
Mike
the city.
still worked on the shows as voice actors, but that was it. Instead of them, the series was led under the command of Doug TenNapel. Buddy, I don't even know how to say your name, but I don't really care. He was the guy who was the creator of Earthworm Jim.
Oh!
Not my first choice, nor my 87th. Both of these series featured redesigns of the characters, as the characters had more, anime eyes, I guess?
Bobo-san, where's my hairbrush?
Yeah.
Also, the stories and writing weren't nearly as sharp. Overall, I did not care for In the House or In the City.
Is that Larry Boy?
Phil and Mike really knew what they were doing originally. And let me tell you, the Veggietales fandom did not care for these reboots either.
Nah.
I found this crazy forum post from like 2014 that said the following, quote,
"No one in this series is cute. Even Larry, the cucumber I've been crushing on since I was 8, looks like what comes out of your blood if you eat too much green stuff."
Really? It's Larry?
Shit myself.
Larry's hot? Larry's your crush? Well, that's a new one.
Okay,
Oh, by the way,
sure.
someone replied to this and said, quote,
You're gonna burn in hell for the rant you made.
Oh man, these fans go hard. Despite the crushing defeats that Phil suffered throughout the years,
Don't
there
mess with
was a
Veggietales
silver
fans.
lining.
We're going
He got
to
a
hell.
second chance. In March of 2019, it was announced that the broadcasting rights to Veggietales was picked up by Trinity Broadcasting Network,
Oh,
a
TVN.
Christian-based television network. They wanted Veggietales to return to its original format, and also wanted Phil to be a writer and director on the show. Heck, they got the old band back together. Phil, Mike, Lisa, Kurt. It was like seeing old friends again.
Wow.
The show is called The Veggietale Show, and the first
got the
episode
first one right
was
over there
released
behind me.
in late 2019. I watched it, and it feels a lot like The Muppets, with how they put on a show, and Kermit's running around backstage with his clipboard, trying to keep things in line. It's like that, but with Veggietales. The writing is familiar, the jokes are funny, the characters look much better, and overall, I dig it. Again, Phil and his team brought something unique to the table when they were originally making Veggietales. So it's really good to see them back on the show. Oh, and by the way, the first episode is about making peace. And at the end of the show, Bob straight up apologizes to the rest of the Veggietales for letting them down and asks them to forgive him. If that is not a metaphor, then I don't know what is. So, in conclusion, after sharing this long story of success and failure, I have to say this. I both pity and respect Phil. This truly was a story about a man who was original and brilliant, how he built something amazing, but unfortunately flew too close to the sun and came crashing down. And here's the thing, he admits it, which is refreshing since most people don't like to admit their mistakes. And considering all things, Veggietales was a pretty groundbreaking show and was very good during its original run. I rewatched it while working on this video, and the show absolutely holds up despite its old animation. It's truly a testament that Veggietales was built on creative animation, great characters and writing, and very catchy music. It was more than just Christian vegetables or early CG animation. It was one of a kind, and that is why it became a global phenomenon. Honestly, it makes me wonder what could have been if Phil could have stayed in charge. But in hindsight, it sounds like things played out in a way that ultimately worked out in Phil's favor. He sounded miserable during the late 90s and early 2000s, and seems much more happy now. I suppose all's well that ends well.
He did seem really happy.
Again, I have a lot of respect for Phil. I know not everyone is on the same page when it comes to religious content, but I see Phil as a genuine guy who meant well. He never struck me as arrogant or mean-spirited. Just a guy who was clever with his creations, but was taken for a ride while reaching for the stars. Props to Phil for admitting his faults, learning from them, and moving on. That takes guts. Overall, I hope more people will see the original Veggietales in a better light and realize how much of a footprint it left on the history of animation. And all thanks to a nerdy kid and his religious vegetables.
Well, we're out of time for today, but remember,
God made you special, and he loved you very much.
Bye.
Bamboo.
Goodbye.
Speaking of which, where are my God-fearing vegetables?
Whoa, no, Saber. Saber, stop. Saber, stop. I'll fight you. Dang, you don't drop the dang camera,
I have
Saber.
to use that, actually.
Ah! I was not expecting all of that. Wow, that was crazy. Like, actually crazy. Wow. I didn't expect for, I never would have expected that Phil Vischer went through all of that. Wow. That's just straight crazy, bro. Like, that's all I can say. Veggietales went through, like, probably literal hell. Wow. But yeah, that was super interesting. Well researched. Definitely interested. I see some of the pitfalls that people can fall into when they start from nothing and then start making it big. I now know not to get divorced or else I will ruin my own shows. But wow, that was amazing. I really enjoyed that. Very well researched, but to be fair, I've always enjoyed Saber Sparks content. That was great. Thank you for watching these 3 parts on Diddly Do, and thank you for watching the full reaction on the Dream Team. Wow. I'm gonna watch Jonah now. I'm gonna watch Jonah. So with that being said, leave a comment down below letting me know what you would like to see me do next. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell icon to be notified of the next time I upload. Don't forget to join the Discord server and check out the merch down in the description. And hey, while you're down there, why not donate to the Patreon to help How to Tube and Dare Dare come out sooner. So with that being said, until next time, diddle out.
In the night.